G'day guys, back with another video. Today we're having a look at the T26E4 Super Pershing. We're going to run down its stats, see how it compares with other tanks of similar ability and tier. Then we're going to have a look at some gameplay and then we're going to give you the thoughts on why you might want to spy or stay away from the T26E4 Super Pershing, so stay tuned guys. So straight into the comparison here guys, we've got the T26E4 compared to the Pershing, which is the standard tier 8 medium American tank, and then we have the FV4202, a premium British medium tank at tier 8, which you can currently buy in the premium store, and the T54 Mod 1, which is probably the most comparable premium medium tank to the T26E4. However, none of these tanks do have preferential matchmaking, and keep that in mind guys. So the T26E4 does have preferential matchmaking, meaning it will only see tier 8, tier 9 games at a complete maximum. You are not going to see any tier 10 games in this tank. So this tank does 756.1 damage points per minute, exactly the same as the Pershing, a little bit better than the FV4202, but quite substantially worse than the T54, which does have 1875. So this tank isn't really a very good gun for putting out a significant amount of damage. It just doesn't really have the potential to do that. Penetration wise, at 192 millimeters, it isn't great, but remember guys, this is a preferential matchmaking tank, so you're only going to see tier 9 tanks at the absolute worst, and you can always use your 2 key and put in those premium rounds, although it won't be that great for profit making, but you know, it won't be terrible either. Penetration of the Pershing at 190 millimeters is really bad guys, and this tank does see tier 10, but that's not what we're worrying about today. FV4202 has significantly better penetration though at 226 millimeters, so I mean, at 192 it's not great, but it is better anyway than the T54 Mod 1 and a lot of the Russian medium tanks. So at 192 millimeters, considering it does have preferential matchmaking as well, it really isn't the worst guys, but considering how slow this tank is, as we'll get to in just a second, when you meet a lot of the tanks that go to the places that slow tanks go to, i.e. heavy tanks, the 192 millimeters does become pretty obsolete very, very quickly indeed. Now, the shell velocity of this tank at 975 meters per second is pretty good, but it's not amazing. It means that you won't have to lead shells too much. However, you're not going to be doing the same kind of shell velocity as an M4 Revelry, say the tier 8 French medium tank. So you are still going to have to lead your shots, and this isn't a point and click and penetrate kind of tank. You are going to have to aim anyways, especially as the gun handling on this tank really isn't that great at all. But before we get to that, 12,960 damage potential in a game, that is pretty okay. It's certainly not as good as the Pershing at 16,800, but it is better than the T54 Mod 1, which has a horrific 8,500. So you can have a pretty decent game in this tank without having to worry about running out of ammunition. You do have a reasonable amount that you can take in and differentiate between the ammunition types. Gun handling on this tank is horrific guys. It is really, really bad, at least when compared to the other medium tanks. So aiming time is okay at 2.3 seconds. In fact, that's pretty good, but dispersion is 0.38, which is terrible, especially when we look at the other tanks in this comparison, and its hidden dispersion values are really, really bad at 0.24 while moving, 0.24 while the tank is traversing, and 0.16 while the turret is traversing. It's just so much worse than the other tanks in this comparison. I mean, even the T54 Mod, which is known for having really, really poor gun handling, still has better dispersion and hidden dispersion values. So don't expect this tank to be very accurate. It really isn't, and so often will the tank's shots just hit the ground right in front of you, even though you fully aimed it in. It is a frustrating tank to shoot, especially to shoot the weak points of tanks, which you really do want to do in this tank. Depression wise, it has very, very good gun depression and elevation, but it's not incredible when you compare it to the other tanks in this comparison, but it's still really, really good guys. You can't knock 10 degrees of gun depression, so although it's not better than the other tanks in this comparison, it's still really, really good. I mean, the T54 Mod 1, that only has 6 degrees of gun depression, which is absolutely horrific guys. Terrible, terrible. Now, mobility wise, at 40 kilometers top speed, it does sound very good on paper, and it is pretty good, especially when you go downhill. I mean, compared to the other tanks in this comparison, though, it is pretty shit. It's quite substantially worse. But the tank weighs over 50 tons and only has a 500 horsepower engine, so really you're not going to be able to go fast at all with a 9.89 power to weight ratio. It's just horrendous, especially compared when you combine that with the fact it also has some of the worst ground resistances for medium tanks at tier 8. It is such a slow tank, guys. I mean, it is nothing on the Pershing, it is nothing on the FE4202, and it certainly is nothing on the T54 Mod 1. It is very slow at accelerating. You will not reach that forward speed unless you're pretty much falling off a cliff. I mean, it is very, very slow. So turret traverse wise is another terrible aspect of this tank. 24 degrees per second is so bad. It's so bad, especially when you compare it to T54 Mod 1 or the Pershing. It's pretty much got half the value of those tanks, so don't expect this tank to be fast. It has the mobility of a slow, super heavy tank. That's just the way it is. Tank traverse wise, it's not bad. It's not amazing, but it is a saving grace here. With 32 degrees per second, it's a lot better than it could be. You know, if this tank had 24 degree tank traverse, it would be a bomb. No one would drive it. It would be that bad, but at least it has 32 degrees per second, so you will be able to use the armor of this tank to be able to block shots and kind of wiggle your way around to throw off the enemy from shooting your weak spots. Just talking about armor here, hull armor at 101.6 and turret armor at 101.6 doesn't sound that great on paper, but guys, when you look at the armor of this tank, you'll realize exactly why this tank is renowned for having some of the best armor at its tier for tier. Look at all this blue and purple. What that symbolizes is spaced armor, and this tank has 2 layers of spaced armor on its hull and has multiple layers on its turret. So a lot of tanks that you're going to meet in this tank are going to struggle so much to be able to go through the front of this tank and just going to bounce shell after shell, especially if they don't know where to shoot. So we can see that if this tank isn't angling at all, it has 220 millimeters to 200 millimeters at poor points of effective armor. So, and if you angle it a little bit, you're going to be able to get even better values there. So this tank is really good at being able to eat up shells, especially high explosive anti-tank shells, which slow down as they go through spaced armor, and high explosive shells, they barely do any damage to this tank. It is very, very good at blocking high explosive shells and also standard shells with just sheer angling and armor values. So that is something you can look forward to if you do own this tank, and something to be worried about if you do face this tank. Having said that, it does have 2 weak spots, which is really important for having weak spots because it means this tank is balanced wargaming. So it has a machine gun port here, which has 76 millimeters of penetration. I mean, anything can go through that if they aim. It is quite a small target, but if you can hit it, then you're going to be able to penetrate this tank, which is, I think, a really good feature of this tank. And also at the top, it's got a little cupola here, which you can penetrate with pretty much any tank that will face this tank. So that is something that is really, really good. So although it does have really good armor, especially if you're going hull down in this tank with its 10 degrees of gun depression, and you can pretty much hide your weak spots, but and have insane armor values, but it does have these weak spots so that tanks can penetrate you. So it's something you've got to be wary about, but it's also something I think is really good, as you can see these two here. Now this little cupola here is not actually modeled into the tank, so do not shoot that. You will not penetrate that little turret. You're not going to be able to go through it. You're just going to have your shell lob straight through. So shoot for this turret on the left hand side of the tank, and also this machine gun port, and you'll be able to go straight through. Health wise, we have 1500 hit points of health, which is really, really healthy for a tier 8 medium, but as we know, guys, this isn't really a medium tank. This is more of a heavy tank. Certainly better than all the other tanks in this comparison. I'm pretty certain it's the best health value of any medium tank in the game at tier 8. Sorry, I should reiterate that. And also it has really medium tank view range at 390 meters. Sorry. So although it isn't quite as good as the Pershing, with coded optics and good crew skill, you're going to be definitely able to reach that 445 meter spotting view range cap. So this does have a very, very good view range, so you are going to be able to rack up quite a lot of assistance damage driving this tank. But anyway, guys, let's take it back to the garage, have a look at crew skills, and also have a look at equipment layouts. So just having a quick look at the tank in the garage, I think it's a good looking tank. You hopefully agree with me, especially with the camouflage. Let's not forget that, guys, but it is a nice looking tank, and it is quite bulky. I mean, if we compare it to, for instance, the IS-3, you know, it is quite tall, but it's certainly not a huge tank, and that's pretty advantageous in this tank, especially is when people see your frontal armor, they're just like, oh, and they run away and try and shoot lightly armored tanks. But looking at equipment here, I have a medium caliber tank gun rammer. I also have vertical stabilizer to make that those terrible dispersion values just a little bit better by 20%, because the worst thing is lumping shells into the ground, or lobbing shells I should say, and that's just so frustrating. I also have coated optics for a 10% view range boost, and that pretty much makes it so this tank is almost, with my crew skills, almost at its view cap maximum, which is absolutely fantastic and something that's really good in this tank. Now it does have 5 crew members. I can't exactly remember what the other medium tanks have. I'm pretty sure it's got a very good loadout if you want to be able to train your M46 pattern crews or your M48 pattern crews. Let's just have a quick look just to make sure. Well, not going to be actually amazing, but I'm pretty sure, yeah. So up to the Pershing, you're going to be able to have very good ability to move the crews from those tanks into the Super Pershing and be able to use them. So that is a bonus. And with crew skills, what I would do is I would get Brothers in Arms all on your crew skills, just to add that 5% to crew skills, and then I would go for 6th Sense on the Commander. And I mean, although for the Super Pershing you don't really need camouflage because it's such a bulky tank, I would still get it anyway if you do ever want to be able to play the medium tanks at tier, well, the American medium tanks, the standard medium tanks, and be able to use the better camouflage values on those tanks. And also you can see here, this is my ammunition loadout. I would actually recommend taking in more APCR. It's something I'll change next time I take this tank into battle, because with that 8 rounds of APCR, you're only going to be doing about 1600 max damage to tanks on the enemy team, and sometimes that cannot be enough, but some might argue that might be enough, and I'm just a new player, and I would probably agree with them. But anyway guys, let's have a look at this game in action and see exactly how it performs in game. Alright guys, we're in game now. We're watching Tank Fighter Hero, what I'll call Tank in this replay, playing on, I always forget the name of this map, Arctic region. Shouldn't, it's pretty easy to remember. He's playing in his T26E4 Pershing, having a good look at this odd looking Russian tier 8, I believe, yeah, sorry, tier 7 light tank. So far we just had a random shot. I don't believe anything's been spotted as of yet. Tank is keeping his eye open in case he can see an enemy on the other ridgeline, of course. All the enemy TDs and some medium and heavy tanks sometimes do like to snipe down that ridge. So you can see he's taking a very aggressive position. Now he is in a good matchup here as well. He's in a tier 8 matchup. And we've seen that this Batchat 12T on his team has been able to spot some teams. Let's see if he can snap a shot. No, he can't quite snap a shot in it. And Emil 1 was spotted in a very hull down position. He will have absolutely no hope in hell being able to penetrate that tank's turret. Even with premium rounds, he's going to struggle. Yeah. So he's backing up now, seeing what other options he does have. T29 is trying to play his luck here. So far, a lot of his team has gone to this position, so he doesn't have a very great opportunity of being able to farm any sort of damage, so he does go back to try and help northern flank that is being overrun, well, almost being overrun by the enemy team. It's a slow process. So far, it's only been 2 minutes into the game, not even, and 3 of his team are down, so the scores are 4-0 now. Really not looking very good for Tank and his team. He's going to have a really tough time in being able to win this game. I mean, most games the game will pretty much be over at this point with the team falling apart so quickly, but so far on the southern flank their team is being able to hold off the enemy team for now, but they probably are going to be coming around that rear end. He has been spotted, so he's got to be careful he doesn't get hit by those really annoying camping tanks, but he wasn't hit, so either they weren't paying attention or they weren't able to aim in. 5-0 score now. 2.5 minutes into the game. Really quite horrific. You can see all the enemies here pretty much have almost all their health. really not looking up for the team, is it? But that's why we have Tank here to save the day. Spots, he's able to see the Leo, gets a shot off into him. Looks like he's using auto aim as well, which is a bit odd. But to each their own. Can't quite get a shot there, but that T71 has completely tunnel vision, did not see Tank there, and it means that Tank is able to get some shots in, but look how many tanks there are here. And now it's him versus all these tanks here, who seem to be tunnel visioning still. I think the Comet only just realized he was here. Every tank is pushing out, they're feeling overly confident, and he's able to put in shot after shot into these tanks. These tanks are all relatively low armored. That Tiger 1 is stocked with its turret as well. So he's able to bully all these little tanks here, who are going to really struggle to get behind him. Although we can see that AMX 1375 is trying to flank him, but his team is around that area, so hopefully they'll be able to take him out. That Tiger 1 does get in a shot. Very lucky indeed. What does he hit? It almost looks like he went straight through the... almost looks like he went straight through the turret front here. I'm not sure if that was him, but regardless, this T-44-100 has had enough and is trying to now overrun Tank in his tank, but he does have a strong turret, but Tank is able to go through the front of his tank. Scores are now 3-9. That Leo is now going to try and get around him. But we can see that this tank does have very good, it does have very, very good indeed rate of fire. So he is able to stop tanks coming through. And although that Leo almost got past, he isn't quite able to get past. And Tank here is going to ruin his day. In fact, the Tiger P on his team does take him out. But right now it's 5-10 the scores. That Tiger 1 seems to know where he's aiming for. He's able to aim at the walls, trying to aim at the weak spots anyway. But he's going to struggle. And he armour racked that Tiger 1. Poor Tiger 1 on that team. Wow, that must be so devastating. He didn't have much chance, to be fair. Already Tank has done 3,389 damage within 5 minutes. In the first 2.5 minutes, I don't think he did a single point of damage, so really well done so far. I mean, if Tank finished the game here, it would probably be a heartbreak, but at least he would win. Gets spotted here. Could be the WZ132 or the Comet. Don't really know at this point. There the WZ132 is, so it probably was him. Now he is in a pretty good position in being able to be in cover. Luckily there's no enemy artillery, so he's not going to be able to be flushed out of that position very easily at all. And here the AMX 1375 is trying to take a shot. WZ111 does have a good turret, but does have two weak cupolas on the top. But right now he's waiting for the enemy to make the first move, make a mistake and come through. He knows he can block pretty much any shot from that WZ111. Does not have very good premium penetration or standard penetration. So his armor will very much be able to hold up to that tank. That Emil, on the other hand, does have a very nasty gun, but very weak side armor and a very poor decision there by the Emil. Oh, he's going to regret this. He's going to get shot in after shot. Gets a second shot into the side of the turret, I believe. And that Emil must be ruining the day he ever stepped foot in front of Tank here. Tank is able to take him out, and that T71 obviously got a bit too courageous there. Takes out the Comet because it does have the lowest health, and any gun on the battlefield is still a working gun. And these tanks, they seem to be tunnel visioning right in front of Tank here. They don't seem to care that their team is being picked apart by him. And he's able to take him out now. He should aim for that WZ131, which he is, sorry, 111. But I think he hits the SU152 instead. He makes the right decision here in shooting the WZ111. Is a nasty tank with its hull armor anyway. Although with all these new premium tanks, it's pretty much obsolete now. T71 is now going to start getting picked apart. It's not going to be fast enough to run away, and unless it does some moves, it's not going to be able to run away. But he's reversing backwards and he's just been tracked, so Tank is going to be able to get another shot into him. So Tank is really bringing this game back. He's done 5,630 damage, so he has been very effective. And now all the enemy team has left are 3 light tanks and 1 medium tank versus 2 tier 8 tanks with very strong armor and a tier 7 tank with very strong armor, the Tiger P. So really their team is going to need to be able to get behind these guys in order to be able to penetrate them, even with premium rounds. The TVP has realized that all his tanks on his team are now dead, so he's got to be very careful. And now the WZ-132 has been taken down the enemy team. And Tank misses the shot there right at point blank range, but so far his shots have been very accurate indeed, even with that poor dispersion rate as we've seen. But he gets hit by the TVP V2, so he has to make a decision here. Will he stay up there and risk getting shot again? No, he doesn't. And he's ramming the AMX 1375. Doesn't quite track him in that ram, but he's still able to take out that the AMX 1375. And we know where the other two tanks are, so his flanks, for the moment anyway, are safe. But look at the mobility of this tank, guys. It is so slow. Speed it up a little bit here because it is very slow indeed. That T71 does seem to be coming around the back, thinking it can flank. Maybe it thinks it hasn't been spotted again, but so far it's staying behind the rock. But Tank does not want to take his chances with that T71. If it gets behind his flank, we know that the mobility of this tank will hinder it in being able to turn around and take it out. So he's going to go play a bit of hide and seek with his T71, see if he can't find it. If it does run away, he has very good view range, but he spots it anyway. One shot takes him out, and that TVP has relocated, and the OHO, using its 152mm derp, is able to take out that TVP and end its reign of terror on the game. And let's just have a look at the post-game stats, guys, because we know that this is going to be immensely good. So as you can see, and as we all expected, this was a mastery ace tanker badge. A very good game indeed, meaning he's in the top 1% of all experience earned in anyone playing in T26E4 Super Pershing. We have the Bruiser medal here, we have the Demolition Expert medal, the Duelist medal, and the Fire for Effect. Of course, the Radley Walters medal for destroying between 8 or 9 enemy vehicles in one battle. We have the Steel Wall for the damage blocked, which we'll have a look at in just a sec, a High Caliber, and a Top Gun for getting 6 kills or more. So out of the 27 shots he fired, he penetrated 27 of these shots. His ammunition resupply was only cost him 7,395, meaning I don't think he even shot one premium round in this entire game. Although he might have, but I don't remember him doing that. So he's made a profit of 273,000. That is insane. I'm not sure if there was a mission running or something like that. There must be, because it's crazy. I think his base, no. Oh, it must have been. So with premium and without maybe whatever mission or thing he completed to get that 290,000, he still made 129,000 base credits. Absolutely crazy. Let's have a look at all of his stats as well. 6,693 damage dealt to the team. He blocked 1,490 damage, which isn't spectacular, but it's still really good, and did 1,185 spotting damage or damage by assistance. And he killed 8 tanks, so really well done to Tank in this game. Absolutely absurd result here, but it just goes to show that this tank can be very effective, but really under certain conditions, and that conditions is in a very small area, because this tank is so slow, as we saw in that game. So guys, what do I think of this tank? If I were you, would I purchase it? I already have purchased it, of course, but if I were you, would I purchase it? Personally, unless this is your first tank and you're looking into something that has probably a lower skill cap to play, I would not go for this tank. I just don't think it's influential enough on the battlefield, as in it cannot get from point A to point B very quickly at all. It does struggle with its mobility, as you've seen in the replay. But if you're a person who struggles to maybe or who seems to die really quickly at the beginning of games, then this tank might be really good for you. And that's something that you could consider purchasing. Of course, you know your own finances. I can't tell you to go out and buy a tank, but if you do have other premium tanks, and this just really isn't the tank, I'd probably go with the AMX CDC or the M4 Revelorise, which just have, in my opinion, better stats. Obviously not as good armor, but just better stats. And although they do have a high skill cap, guys, do remember that. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you did like the video, leave it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down, but at least tell me why in the comments. Subscribe, that would be absolutely amazing. And if you like fitness and health content, you can look down in the description below, see my Instagram, follow me there, because I do like to post some health inspired and related fitness content onto there, guys. But thanks guys so much, and until next time.